Welcome to another episode of Inside the Artist with your host, John G. Rupert. Today is December 30th, 2023, and we're taking you inside the world of Kung Fu Grandmaster Gregory Moy. Grandmaster Moy, how are you today?
Fine, John, fine.
We've received a lot of emails and questions about your life. So, Inside the Artist decided to show up and give you a chance to tell us about your life.
Okay.
How did you first get started in Kung Fu?
Well, at the age of 13, let me see if I can tell this story this way. At the age of 13, I was just a regular kid going to school. And there used to be a guy, I don't know if he was from a gang or whatever, but he used to take my money every day, right? And I used to hide from this guy. It's like, this dude, he just knew what time I was coming out and where I was going. I could go around the corner, or, I'd try to go the long way and he would catch me. So one day, he took my money and everything like that. And I just get bullied all the time. And my first seafood that I met was Master Stewart. Master Stewart was a nice guy, I thought maybe he might have been a Muslim. I wasn't sure, but he decided to ask me, you want to stop getting bullied like that? I was like, yeah, I'll learn. Didn't know he knew martial arts at the time, but he was my first instructor. And so as I would go over his house, and Master Stewart was a little difficult, I would say, like, he was more of a spontaneous teacher. He didn't have your basic horse forms or your upper body forms or anything like that. He was the kind of teacher that taught you like life experiences. He was very spontaneous. He had a wide range of doing things. It wasn't just one, like you would do a rising block or something like that. He wouldn't just teach you that. He will give you a couple of things and he would just leave you. And so he gave me the sidekick. And I wouldn't see him put down and practice the sidekick. And I was like, man, I don't know if I'm going to. You never get to see the guy, He teaches you a sidekick. And so I went back to him. He said, show me your sidekick. And I was like, yeah, I did it. And he said, okay. Then he showed me a snap kick. A snap kick, a roundhouse. And he left me like that for like a couple weeks. Snap kick, roundhouse kind of thing. And I come to realize that while I was doing it, because I really wanted to learn, but he never really stayed and taught me anything. So once I got my round kick and my snap kick down and the roundhouse, I would go back to him and he would say, show me your snap kick. And I'll show him it. And he said, oh, good. That was actually the first day he actually stood there, talked to me, and started teaching me. And I think what he was trying to teach me was, he wanted to see, was I serious? He didn't want to waste his time with showing me stuff, So once he found out that I was serious about it, he started to teach me hand movements and blocking methods and stuff like that. But like I said, it wasn't more of your setup the way you would do a horse stance and you do a front lunge or anything like that. He was teaching me in a spontaneous way. So what he would do is he would put sticks in his basement. And he had a stick swinging around. And he would tell me to go through the sticks, right? So, you're playing games and you're thinking like, okay, well, I'll just weave this way, I'll weave that way, and it won't be no problem, you know what I mean? And then he put needles on the stick. So now I'm saying to myself, this guy's like, he's trying to do like a Shaolin type of thing like you see on the TV or something like that, right? And I'm saying to myself like, why is he having me go through this kind of stuff? But what I found out from doing it was once the needle stuck me, it heightened my awareness. And it caused me to pay attention to my surroundings, right? Well, you don't get that in the first day. I mean, you're ready to quit. At least I was. I was ready to he's just trying to do some TV stuff or whatever. You know what I mean? And as he put me through these like concepts and uh, just dealing with life coming at you in all sorts of crazy ways. Once he taught me that, I come to understand. Am I actually learning kung fu? Am I, front lunge? Am I learning something? I'm not learning this. I'm learning like a life experience type of thing. That particular Sifu he was more creative in that way. He was more dynamic in that particular way. My next Sifu was
Greg,
yes,
how long did you stay with that first Sifu?
years. I spent a lot of years with him. He became more like my father, showing me, things in life and stuff like that. He became very good at martial arts. I got the chance to spar a lot of these black belts and stuff with this particular technique I was learning. And I found out that I was actually more better than them because I think in the system they were learning, like karate of some sort like that, it was all like robotic. Not to say it wasn't effective. It was effective, definitely. You had some people that were really good at that. But because I was so rounded with that form of martial arts, I was able to come at them in so many different ways that would seem to be improper for a martial artist. In other words, my teacher was teaching me how to take chances at things, not, because a guy have a knife and you say, I'm going to stab him, right? And it could be one way you could try to stab the guy, or you could try to stab him this way. My Sifu wouldn't think in terms like that. Now, you have other teachers which you use a rising block, you grab it, you twist it or whatever. He wouldn't teach me things like that. And naturally, you could use a rising block. But in real fighting, it never works out like that. It just never, so when a person would attack me, I would just maneuver in a way to where if the knife was coming this way, I would just maneuver with it, or I would follow it. Or like we had a system I developed a system called serious play, where it was spontaneous, but the person can come at you in all different sorts of ways, and you would have to use your best method of getting out of the way. And once you got that best method of getting out of the way, I would try to enhance it for you by coming at you all sorts of ways. So a lot of these particular karate guys and people that I was meeting, I met a couple shoot fighters. They were more like wrestlers, but more like what you see in MMA kind of combat. They take you down, they do a leg lock, stuff like that.
It's more like grappling?
Grappling, more that type of thing. And they couldn't work with me in that. Well, fighting is fighting. If you're strong enough, you can get through it. If you're not, I could have lost. It just so happened I didn't lose in those particular methods. Because I was more rounded, was more willing to take chances. I kind of fit into that kind of thing, but it wasn't that particular style. Now, like I said, my teacher never called it a particular style. He just called it. He sort of like said it was more spontaneous,
like kind of free flowing.
So I asked him, where did he get his learning from? He told me his teachers, but his teachers, from what I understand, they were more systematic. Like they would tell you horse dance, square horse, scissor steps, arrow cake or something like that. They were more traditional with theirs. But for the most part, as for Stewart, I would say he was the guy that gave me more of a world experience about martial arts.
Now, when you did these sparring sessions with other students,
right,
was your Sifu with you?
Well, yeah, he would like take me to a school and tell me like if the guy wanted to spar me or something, he would let me spar them and let me see the different methods And somebody would come out with the crane, or somebody would do the tiger or whatever, and he would just, deal with it. What do you think you're going to do? And one thing he kept in my mind was like, you don't have to let a person hit you. Remember that. Just because you do a movement don't mean you have to let him do what he wants to do. And so you'd always bring the person into your type of fighting instead of fighting his type of fighting, you know. And I got pretty good at that, And after that, for some reason, the teacher just kind of disappeared. He moved, and I didn't get to hear from him too much. I mean, here recently, I just found out where he lived at. I went back. He's a lot older now, so. But he still pretty much had the same method, you know what I mean? But I don't think he's doing his martial arts as much as he used to do it.
After the sparring sessions, did he give you any kind of critique?
And all the time,
Mm-hmm.
all the time. He would tell me things like, watch his expression. When you hit him, make him know that you hit him. If you hurt him, make him know that I hurt you. And with those kind of things, and that I found vulnerability in the person I was sparring, because I would I would do maybe a side kick to his arm. And normally he would block it, but I would attack the arm in such a way to where I would damage the arm. And once I made him know I damaged his arm, it's sort of mental, you know what I mean? Almost like you're Muhammad Ali, saying that, you're the rabbit. I make you believe you're the rabbit. You're not gonna come at me hard. So he already won the fight mentally, pretty much. You know what I mean? And so I would use the same methods, and when I would hit a person, I would make him know, like, I can feel you. I feel what you're doing. I see your struggle. You know what I mean? But we did a lot of that kind of thing. So he would spar me, and he was really fantastic. I mean, he was like, it's hard to explain. Hard to explain. It was like a person that has a bunch of holes in him that when you think you got him, you don't really have him. You know what I mean? So, but after that, he just kind of disappeared. I was left on my own.
Now, when you studied with him, did he give you any kind of grading system, let you know how you were progressing in the art?
Well, he would tell me like I was equivalent to a black belt. He would say things like, what you know now, you can probably beat a lot of black belts. And he didn't gauge it like in the system, like you had to have this belt, or this belt made you so, you know what I mean? He didn't grade it. He didn't grade it like that. I mean, I develop belts, but I have a system behind what I do. You know what I mean?
Did he teach you any weapons?
No. Mainly hand-to-hand combat type of thing, That was that.
And who was your second teacher after you left this Sifu?
My second Sifu was David. Call him David. It was, I'll just say he was heavy set. Some people might say he was just fat. You know what I mean? But David was a very interesting. He had a sort of the same method Stan had, but he taught me like horse forms and upper body strength and lifting weights and lunging and how to hit a person and stuff like that. And he taught me close-in fighting. Like he would take me out in the park and he would have me hit the tree like this all day, and or he would have me do horse stances, a square horse scissor step to strengthen my legs. I noticed what he was doing was he was building me. He was making me stronger. Where with Stan was, because he was more spontaneous. I mean, he had me do splits and stuff like that. But Dave was more of that kind of a person. He had you do splits. So the value in splitting and the value in horse stances and things like that. But I used to think, because I had the first method, it was easy for me to fit that in because I knew that what he was teaching me was actually making me stronger, by doing horse stands, my arrow kicks, and stuff like that. Now with Dave, I had a lot of different tournaments. We had other schools that would come in, and but it wasn't the kind of thing like. I mean, I went to a couple of practical tournaments that you would go, 3-point sparring type of thing, and I showed out. But Dave didn't like that kind of a sparring. He wanted sort of like a full contact type of thing, and and at that time, because I learned from Stan, I was a lot more sufficient in that area of sparring, where if I had started with him, I probably would have been really, really nervous, some guy kicking you in the leg or whatever, you know what I mean? And I'm like, I don't know if I want to do this. Yes, you got to remember, I was a real timid kind of guy.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well, you said in the beginning of our interview, you said you were bullied.
Yeah, so what Dave taught me was sort of like the way Stu taught me, but he gave me a foundation. He taught me what the stances were for, what they did to your legs, and why you need to sit like that to strengthen your stances. And I come to find out that in my sparring, because I've learned those stances, I was actually even more sufficient in that I could step into a movement and not be moved, So I said, okay, I saw it evening. I stayed with Dave for a lot of years. This Sifu was so, unique that he would sit in the dark. That's my witness here. I see like he was stripping me out with something. I didn't know if it was voodoo or what, but he would sit in the dark and he would throw a star in each corner of the room. And when you cut the light on, the star would be right in the corner of the room. So I didn't know if that was some kind of black magic or what, But it was very interesting. It showed me that he was really, really into his art. And he was the first guy I actually seen break, like he would take 2 breaks and wow, just take it in. And I would ask him, like, how do you do that? How do you build the strength, to break a brick, right? And he would say, no, it's a trick behind it. And I said, what do you mean? So he would get 2 bricks, right? I never noticed this, but he would get 2 bricks and he would concentrate on really trying to break the first brick. But because he had a slight gap between the bricks, when it slaps, both of the heads come off.
Oh.
And I used to think because he did it so good, I used to think he just went right through the whole joint, right? And I say, wow. So when I did it, it actually worked. You concentrate on breaking the first brick, and you really try to break the first brick. But because you're hitting it right, the slapping takes the other head off.
Now, what was Dave's title? Did he ever tell you his title?
Well, now, who was Dave Sifu? I met him one time. He's a Chinese guy, right? But I didn't get to see him do anything because he always talked to Dave like Stan would talk to me, like life experience, stuff like that. But Dave Sifu was, at least from what he tells me, he was a very unique kind of guy. I don't know if he was studying, because of the forms he was showing me, I didn't know if he was studying Hungar, some kind of thing like that. You know what I mean? I didn't know if he was doing that because I know they had a school down there on Cherry Street. And I went in one time and met this big muscle kind of dude. He was a black guy. Forget his name, right? Now, he would, you can watch and stuff like that. And you would see them doing this and doing their things like that. And I was like, okay, right? But every time I would see them spar, it seemed to be more of a strength kind of thing, where they would come in at you, hey, and you would block, bam, and everything would be like that, right? And I said, wasn't too impressed by that because learning from Stan, it was more like, who fight you like that? Who comes at you like that,
That
right?
tight.
But Dave taught me how to appreciate those forms, those arts, because I think he learned a lot of that kind of stuff. I've never seen a guy take a tiger claw grip and take bark off a tree.
That's what Dave did?
Dave, he was, I remember he was like 300 pounds. I mean, he was a big guy. You know what I mean? He wasn't getting past his strength. You know what I mean? He would grab the bark and I mean, like, take it right off the tree. So, I mean, I didn't mean to challenge him. Yeah, right. So we would spar, and he came at me, and he tiger clawed me. Boom. And I said to myself, this stuff really works. You know what I mean? He grabbed me with his fingers and brought me down. So I started paying more attention to, my horse forms and my stuff like that, right? But for the most part, Dave was very interesting at the same time. But the method he taught me was how to hold a stance and he taught me spacing too. He taught me how to close the gap on a person. Like, when you have two people fighting, before the person moves, you close a gap. When you close the gap, it makes the person think about what he's going to do. You don't quite know what he's going to do. But because you close the gap, you have an advantage in that. Or sort of like with learning how to use long range weapons like your legs and stuff. If a person moved towards you, you would intercept them with the long range weapon by doing a side kick to the kneecap or something like that. You would cut him off, And, the moment he moves, he offers you an attack, That they would give you methods like that.
Did you learn any weapons with Dave?
Dave, I learned the broadsword. I learned how to work the broadsword detective. He was very unique in weapons. Dave didn't work anything. But for some reason, like he had a traditional form of the broadsword that you would use or whatever, but he never used it traditionally. Like he had these people I was meeting, was straight out the ghetto. It wasn't no like, I went to school and learned this kind of stuff. I mean, you had to know what you know. And there was no particular name for it, but because of the way I was learning, it helped me develop my own. You see what I mean?
So Dave would. So you were saying. So Dave would train with the broadsword one way, but yet when he actually used it, he would use it totally different.
It was altogether different. When I would see him just moving around with the sword, he would pretend he was fighting people, with weapons and stuff like that. And he would put people in front of you. I would be here, I would go here, and I would see this person coming here. And I would automatically know what he's going to do before I would go to do my technique. He was that kind of a guy. He was like just all over the place. You know what I mean? So, and learning from him, like I said, it was more in the order of what Stan taught me, but it was more sufficient. Like, what Stan taught me, it was like more taking a chance. It always worked, but it was more like taking a chance. What Dave taught me was how to be sure of taking my chances. You see what I'm saying? And then the story with Dave, and it ended in a tragedy. Come to find out that Shifu was doing some really bad things. We were all in the ghetto, and at that time it was a cocaine type of thing, and crack came into to the scene, and I don't want to put no bad things on him because I'm a Christian, and I prayed for everybody's soul. He was doing a little shady thing or whatever, and it caused cost him his life.
I'm sorry to hear about that.
So, and that was pretty much it for him. Nevertheless, I pray his soul went to heaven because he was a very good teacher. He taught hundreds of people. You know, he said that I was his top student because my heart was soft. You know, but go ahead.
Now, did he have a school, like a physical school you guys went to? Where was that located at? I know everything's centered in Philadelphia so far, correct?
It was at actually I had my school there too after he left. It was in the Arthur Hall School, dancing school, down on Germantown, let's say Germantown Lehigh. Well, back then there was a guy named Arthur Hall. He did African dancing and things like that.
Oh wow!
And he would at times he would have these guys and they're playing the bongo and everything, and you would see the dancers doing that. Or I would be doing my movement. I would be there. He would be playing something, and I would just be going with the rhythm of the music, you know. But Dave had a big school in there. I mean, his school was so big, he had the upstairs and the downstairs full of students, you know. And he had one of the top students was Mickey. His name was Mickey. And I became the second, you know, top student in there. And ended up being the first because Dave wanted me to carry his legacy on. He wanted me to, you know, open a school. And I did, you know, in the same place, you know, after he left, you know, and I try to carry it on that way.
Now, did his school have a name?
No particular name. At least he didn't label it like that. But he would say things like School of Tiger Crane or something like that. And it was just, it was funny in a way because he would put a label on the name of the school. My school is called such and so or whatever, you know. But I think he was just trying to give it a name for his particular form of art. And he beat a lot of teachers. I mean, I've seen this stuff eye to eye. You know what I mean?
You would have teachers come to school to challenge him?
He wanted the Green Dragon Society. They was up there on 5th and Lehigh. 5th and Lehigh. They had a school in there. And those particular teachers were scared of Dave, you know. Because, like I say, Dave was... you know, we were raised in the ghetto. We had the fighting spirit. You know what I mean? We had the fighting spirit. I remember one time I went to New York with him. And he was talking about this guy named Moses Powell. Moses Powell, right? I never heard of the guy. They had videos on him. I went down Asian World Martial Arts. And I got to see what this guy would do. I think he invented the one finger roll. He would dive in the air, land on his finger, and roll. Ooh. He had a system called touch and go. It was more of a, I wouldn't say jujitsu type of thing. It seemed to be sort of grappling or a Aikido type of thing. It seemed to be more on the lines of the Aikido type of thing. And I never got to meet him per se, like one-on-one, you know, but Dave was very interested in this guy, you know. And I always thought he was going to take me to see him, you know what I mean? But he never gave me the chance to, you know, he had lost his life. So.
Have you actually ever seen your Seafood Dave spar anybody?
Oh,
yeah.
Lots of guys.
Can you tell us about some of them?
Well, there's one particular guy. Like, you got to remember, Dave would show us the eagle claw, right? Mm-hmm. We would do the eagle claw, right? Now, normally you're just having your fingers this way. His fingers would cup in. It wasn't so much that he was just using his finger. He would hit you with the heel of your hand here, like a palm strike, and he would hook into you. But you would say, that don't sound like nothing. Who does that? You know what I mean? But this was the first time I seen it in actual full combat, right? We were meditating in the horse school. I think it was about maybe 50 of us. This guy came into school. I don't know if he was from the Green Dragon Society because they kind of hated him. They didn't like him. So the guy came into school, and he looked a big kind of dude, right? He had patches all on his gi, and I'm saying to myself, this dude, I think he might be the one. What I mean?
Something, yeah.
Like, he's really good. He took his shoes off and his feet was like rough like a champ. So I'm saying to myself, he's probably going to do something. He's going to do something. And he said, when I realized he didn't really know nothing, because at that particular time, my name had gotten out there. I was called Master Star at the time. And my name has gotten out there from, Dave's school. And he heard about me. But I think he didn't know who I was, right? So Dave would have this thing where he would tell a student to get up and eliminate it, right? So I would be like, okay, we're sitting there, we're meditating. And when we meditate, our type of meditation would be on our particular form or art we're doing. And whatever we were meditating on, we would actually become that particular animal. Like, it was sort of weird. I thought it might have been a little bit demonic, if you ask me. But we would, like, if I was doing the tiger claw, I would meditate on really doing the tiger claw. So when I attacked a person, I didn't attack him like in the kung fu way. I was on him. You know what I mean? I did it.
You became the animal.
I poked you in the eye. I poked you in the eye. It wasn't that. It wasn't like I was trying to show you. You know what I'm saying? So we were meditating, and I was concentrating on this. And this guy said, "Who's the teacher in here? Who's the?" That was like some kind of big deal back in there. I think it was at the time where they had this movie out called The Golden Kid or whatever. It was a black guy, and in the movie they had this guy called Shonuff. He would come in, Shonuff, right? He would go to school, and I guess it came out that kind of a thing.
I think the movie was called The Last Dragon.
The Last Dragon, yeah.
Correct.
And this guy came in there like that kind of a thing, like who's the teacher of the school stuff, right? So I come out of my meditation and I'm looking at him like, okay. Yeah, my meditation was always about peace. I wanted peace. I don't want to fight. Just peace, Just live life, learn the art, learn to protect yourself, that kind of thing, And Dave when Dave meditate, it was different. He comes out like he's going to kill you, you know what I mean? So, he's going to really hurt you. He looks up, he come out of his meditation, and he looks at the guy, and he goes, well, who there? So he calls me, he said, eliminate him. So I get up, sir, I jump up. He tells me he don't want to fight me. He want to fight the teacher.
Oh.
Dave, it shows you about a person that know their technique. You know what I mean? He stood up. He told us all to move to the side. And he said, I'm going to do a life skill on this person, and I want you to observe it. He was talking to us in such an intense way, right? Like if the guy was not the threat, like learn what it is I'm doing. I'm going to use a combination of life skill and eagle claw method on him, right? So I said, okay, right? So the guy gets up and he goes to fight him. Dave grabs him with the eagle claw. He grabs him this way with the eagle claw, right? Now I'm thinking this dude is a brute. He should have just kicked or whatever, you know what I mean? He grabbed him, and it happens like split second type of stuff. in his throat with the eagle claw. Threw him up in the air with the claw. Right? Slammed him to the ground. Soul chopped him across the face. Right. And kicked him. Boom. Right. The dude ended up crying, talking about he had a family, he got kids and stuff like that. So I'm saying to myself, you should have never came in here. You know, you knew you had a family. Why would you come in here and try this kind of stuff, right? So Dave was getting angry. He went, I swear, he got the Cimarron. He pulled the Cimarron out the sheet, and he was coming to cut the dude's head off. For real. That's when I started to understand what Zen was all about, because I didn't know nothing about Zen. He was totally focused, and he believed in what he was doing, and you could see the way he was coming at him. He was going to do it.
Kill him.
And all the students just dove, me, Mickey, and all of us, we dove on him. Just dove on him. Like, Sifu, you can't do this. You can't go around killing folks. You know what I mean? Like, what are you doing, right? And he snapped out of it like, and I told him, I got angry at the guy. I said, get out, right? I said, get out now. Because now I was really going to hurt him. And he packed his stuff up and he went out. He came in with 3 guys.
He came back?
No.
Oh.
At the time, he came in with 3 guys.
What did the other 2 guys do while he was on the ground?
They were scared, man. It was.
Now, did he ever come back to apologize?
No. He just never came back. You know what I mean? So that was one of the many other episodes I seen him do. I seen him in a couple street fights. It didn't last long, and it wasn't treated like, you know, oh, they can really fight, you know, because we kind of knew he was just going to hurt him. You know what I mean? So, you know, it was a couple of street fights where the guy would get smart and say, your mother F, you know, you would get in, you know, because black guys, we always like to talk hard. But then when you go to do the actual fighting, you see the weakness, you know what I mean? And that's what Dave would always tell me. He said, so you can hear all of this. This doesn't mean anything until the actual punch come out. And he could say, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to F you up, and this. All that can happen. But nothing means nothing until the actual punch come out. And when it comes out, you'll see just how weak he is. And that's very true. That's a very true statement. You have a lot of it. And because he would read through all of that. He was a subtle kind of guy, you know. He would look at you and be like, okay, you know, all right, you know what I mean? But you just knew he was going to, you know what I mean? He was like a pit, you know what I mean? He just stay there and look at you. But then when he jumped on you, it was just over, you know. I mean, I had a lot of good times with Dave.
Did anybody else ever come in and challenge him?
Oh, well. When I go to my next Sifu, they almost got in a confrontation. In fact, let me just go on to the next,
okay,
because I think that would tell the story a lot more better. My next Sifu was Master Larry Rogers. He had a style called Chuksu Kwanzaa in Black Arts. It was more of a karate type of thing, you know. And what I've learned from Master Larry was the fight. Like, know what the fight is. Like, you know, we fighting, and he built the spirit of me up in me, not to lose. Don't lose the fight. You know, I mean, it was like we fighting. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. And he would teach you like front lunges and snap kicks and stuff like that. Like I said, it was more karate. And he had katas and things like that he would do. He would do this chi sao type of thing, where you would do strong breathing. And you would press out like that. And it built me up. You know what I mean? It made me ready for the fight. And he was an airborne ranger, so the the thing that he had the kind of voice where he was scared you just yelling at you because he would always like come at you with like didn't I tell you to do that? Get it right, and then, it was more army type of thing. You know what I mean? And he was a very unique Sifu as well.
So how did you meet him?
Where did I meet Master Larry Rogers at? I think I met him through Grandmaster Percy, which was my next Sifu that taught me. Grandmaster Percy didn't like the way Larry. I'll put it this way: as far as a teacher, in all honesty, he was a good teacher. You could take nothing from him. You know what I mean? It wasn't like he was teaching. It seemed to me that he was more into the fight of it all. You know what I mean? And so Grandmaster Percy kind of removed me away from that. Like, what I mean? Some people have the capability of teaching and the fight. They know how to balance the two. I think Stewart had the fight, and he was more of the conscious of the world around him and how to deal with it as the stuff come to you. David was more of a teacher fighter. He would tell you exactly what you were doing wrong. You didn't pay attention to that. You know what I mean? Stu would let you know. Like I said, he taught me the kind of way that where no matter what's coming at you, how to deal with it. You know what I'm saying? Because Dave and Stu was like on the sort of same method, but they taught you. It was all about elements. You just never knew. And I liked it. I was glad I learned it that way because if I had learned it traditionally, you know what I mean? I think I would be boxing myself into something.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is the way it's done. And that's the way it's done. And stuff like that, you know what I mean?
Now, Grandmaster Moore, I know a question our viewers probably would like to ask is when you met each new Sifu, each new Grandmaster, did you have to, quote unquote, audition for them or show them what you have?
No. I mean, what it was when I met Master Larry, it was down on 4th and Spring Garden. I had a boxing gym down there where you would go and practice your boxing and stuff like that. And he had a school on the side. And I asked him, could I learn? Can I learn? And he took me in. At the time, it was a couple students. He had one student in there. Because I think him and Kat. Can you hand me my picture there? I mean, my album now. I think I got a picture of him. I can kind of show you. Thank you, yeah. Let's see here. Here, this particular one here. 1970, right? That's Grandmaster Percy fighting Kat.
Oh, wow.
Now, Kat and Larry Rogers was the top students of Grandmaster Percy. When I met Percy, he kind of took me out of that. He kind of took me away from Larry, and then he started teaching me. Now, on to my 4th. But Larry, I must say, I learned a lot from him. He gave me a lot of confidence in myself. He taught me about the fight. He took the fear away from it. Like, I was a real timid guy, and with each new level, it was always some kind of fear about it. But Larry took that particular part out of me, it's second nature. Don't struggle with it, Fight is a fight, so what, let's do this. You either want to win or lose. I mean, he gave me that kind of attitude. You know what I mean? But when I met Percy, Percy taught me a lot about Zen. Right? I didn't know nothing about Zen and meditation or anything like that. And I would see him do that, and I would see him. He would come out and because it was more of a Chuck Saquon Zen Black Art type of thing he was doing. But in this particular, let me show you a picture of him. I didn't know he knew kung fu too. Actually, he knew the Mantis style, and he really shocked me. You know, I didn't think he. Here's Percy here. I don't know if you can see him, but this is him here.
Oh, I can see it perfect.
Okay, so Grandmaster Percy.
Oh, Grandmaster Moy, what position is he doing there? What form is that?
He was in a scissor step, and he was doing part of the Mantis style, but his Mantis form seemed to be more of a karate.
Yeah, that's true. That's why I was asking. It looked more like a top karate block.
His this was 1986. His particular Mantis form was more like a karate. It was firm. You know what I mean? And I would see him practice, and he would show me like katas and stuff I still remember. But I'm the kind of guy that would gain, not necessarily from the katas. I knew why he was teaching me the katas, but I gained from what he was actually showing me about it. You know what I mean? And he was kind of letting me know not so much to depend on the kata. The kata is just the form to help.
Now, by showing, you mean the application, correct?
Yeah, like, what it could actually do. You know what I mean? And why they do it that way. You know what I mean? And it works. I'm very interested in what worked. You know what I mean? So it worked. It worked in what he was showing me. But the essence of his art, I mean, dynamic. I remember seeing him taking me to the SPCA, and this dog got loose in the SPCA. I guess he was trying to run out the door. This was a dog. He was like a pit, I'm sitting there scratching the walls trying to get out the place. You know what I mean? So he hunkered up like, hey, and hit the dog with a front lunge. Hi, right? And the dog went out, the dog shut. So you can imagine, in my mind, I was like, what do this guy know? You know what I mean? And when he gave me my master's degree, he talked about Mr. Ademan, which was an Indian guy. He was a Grandmaster. I didn't really get to meet him, but he would talk about him all the time. And he gave me my 7th degree in martial arts. But he kept it with what I knew. And that's what I really admired about him. He didn't tell me what I learned was wrong, because you could see I was very sufficient in what I've learned. But and what I liked about him was the spirit of it all. He didn't say do this art or this art is better. Or, you know, he had a good spirit about the whole of everything. And his thing was about building the individual, right, in the martial arts, not so much as, this style I learned or anything like that, right? So from that, I developed my own art. And I called my art the School of Bermuda Martial Arts. And the reason why I called it that was because the dimension of the triangle. You would hear things like people would go into a certain dimension and you couldn't find them, or they would come out a different kind of person. So the element about the way I was teaching was you go into it and you come out with your own. That's why I said the particular art that I've learned was actually more spontaneous, and it wasn't so systematic. I think that's actually where Bruce Lee kind of messed it up when he called it Jeet Kune Do. Because he boxed it and gave it a name, it messed up what he was really trying to say. And where the way I've learned it, it was more the way Bruce would have wanted to learn it. He didn't want to really give it a name. So I thought the best name I could give it was the School of Bermuda Martial Arts, where you would go into a dimension and you would come out with your own. Whether it was Tiger Style, whatever we were doing, you know what I mean? You would go into that dimension and you would come out with your own. Now, in my facet of teaching, I had students like the William Bingham Cha. He's in here. Actually, I made him the successor of my particular form, and he became very spontaneous. This is William here, right? And
That's the logo of your school?
yeah, the logo of the school is this.
Oh, wow.
Okay, and and so I made him the successor. And I had a lot of brilliant students like Tony. God bless him, he passed on. Tone had Buddha, Keith, but Will was. I had taught over 200 students, so I would send some of my students out to learn different arts. Yeah, I was just curious about it. David came back with Muay Thai type of fighting, and I didn't particularly care for that because it didn't have any longevity to it. And I was trying to find, no one can maintain strength throughout their life. I'm 62 years old, and I can handle myself pretty good, thank God for that. But I know I'm going to get old, you know what I mean? And so I wanted to pass it on to my students. And I told them, go out and, experience, come back. Some people came back with, like James came back with the Hungar style, and he was telling me, and James had that pretty good. It was pretty good. And I would test him and say, show me what it is you're doing. But to me, it wasn't sufficient enough for me. I mean, it was easy. I was beating it easy. It's not to say that the style in itself is not a good style, because I'm sure there's somebody out there, at least at my age now, I'm not even thinking about winning. You know what I mean? I'm just thinking about staying alive. But at the time, it didn't hold up for me. It wasn't sufficient enough for me. And so Will went out and he discovered the Chin form of Tai Chi, which I was doing a lot of it, but I didn't know that it was a Tai Chi. I was doing a lot of the soft stuff because that was all within my art. And it would come through serious play. Serious play, you experience in how to stay soft and, everything. So when he came back, that was actually the first time I discovered an art that was useful. It had longevity to it, and you can do it throughout your whole life, So I adapted into that a lot. So a lot of my art now I mix with the Chin form of Tai Chi. I have a lot of combat-like movements in there, but it's all soft. It's undetectable. You know what I mean? I found Will was actually the only student that I knew that came back with something that I could use. You know what I mean? And I thank God that he brought that to me, because he's real sufficient in it. He studied under. Just have a picture of it down here. Let's see. I think I have it.
Grandmaster Moy, what I can do is I have photos that I can put up.
Mm-hmm.
During this, I believe you're talking about Master Maggie Newman, correct?
Maggie Newman. Yeah, I have a picture of her over there. I never got to see her, and Will kept. I don't know why. I guess someday I think she's like 95 or something like that now, and I'm not sure. But I pray. I do a lot of praying. I believe in Christ. I believe that Christ is God. We can go through that whole thing, and I govern my life that way. And I wanted to get the chance to pray for, Maggie and the people that I met. And Will would tell me, you need to come out and, see her, the people he's doing this Tai Chi with. And I told him I would. I said, I'm not sufficient in that way. You're much more sufficient. I mean, I've never seen a guy that could do. I mean, I've experienced some Tai Chi forms. And I would say my form of Tai Chi, because it's Chin Man, Chin form, I only use the first quarter of it. I don't use it all like Will does. Um, because I practiced that a lot, I was real sufficient in that particular area. But mine was always not just for exercise and health sake. I kept the combat aspect to
The
it.
martial aspect.
Yeah. So while Will would do that with me, if I worked with him on his principle, he would beat me every time because he understood softness, position, and he knew how to move, open his gates and stuff like that. I was just learning that kind of stuff. But if I did it in the martial aspect, for some reason we seemed to even out. You know what I mean? Like that guy evened out with him, and I can keep up with him because I'm thinking martial. But to me, Will was like one of the. I mean, I've never seen a person that that gave me something that I could talk about for a long time. He was very, very sufficient in what he did. You know what I mean? We would talk about things. I remember teaching him one time. Not to be long in this. I remember teaching him one time, and I used to say to Will because my martial arts was spontaneous. I used to say, you got the ideal. He would write down a lot of what I would say. And I say, that's exactly right, Will, but you gotta know how to put it into your art. You have to perform it. And I used to tell him anything you can touch with your hand, your foot should be able to touch it. Right? And he didn't get that notion, but he understands it now. He was like, hey, you're absolutely right, Sifu. So he would I ended up being like him to where I understood it, but I couldn't perform it. You see what I mean? I got it, but I just couldn't perform it. But now I'm more at the stage where I can perform it in my own way, because that's the lovely part about Tai Chi. It's not a certain way you do it, even though they teach you that. It tends to shape the person you are, and when you look at it, even when they would call Tim and Chin Grandmaster Jim or whatever, when I watch him, he didn't adapt into this like Grandmaster type of personality. He never, even though they called him that, he never adapted into it because it's so spontaneous that in one sense you can never really master it because you have so many different unique people out here that their concept you pick and choose and you're only good at what you know what I mean? Where Will was more fortunate, he was more fortunate in his particular Tai Chi, where he not only had the combat aspect of it, he had the health aspect of it, and he could teach it well. He was very good at that. You know what I mean? So I would have to give that credit to him because he was the only person that ever came back out of all of the students I taught. They came back with something that I could actually use. And so I'll end it on this note. I thank God for my students. I thank God for my Sifus that I met. I give God the glory in all of that. I pray for the nation as a whole. You know, the political thing going on is messing up people's minds, and a lot of things is going wrong. We need prayer. We need a lot of prayer about that. And so I pray for the nation as a whole, America, and I wish Will all the success that he wants. I made him the successor of my particular style of martial arts, and give thanks to you, John, for actually making me do this video because I don't like I don't like to be seen as some important kind of person. I'm just a human being, you know what I mean? But I thank you nevertheless for doing it for me, really pushing my hand and saying, you gotta say something. So I give thanks to you and what you did, and I give the Lord all the glory and honor about it. And that's how I'll end it.
God bless, Teach.
Thank you.